Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending the CoreTech webinar to prepare your organization for Microsoft 365 Copilot. My name is Eduardo Molina, and I'm the Director of Smart Workspace at CoreTech. We're going to get started. And thank you, as I said, thank you very much for taking the time to attend this webinar. Our idea and plan is to have the content delivered within about 30 minutes. So we can get you on your day faster than the hour that you might have allocated. And to do that, we're going to touch on a lot of different topics. We're probably going to skim through some of those, but if you have any questions, please put them on the chat, use the Q&A feature, or send us an email. We're happy to respond to that email and follow up and get deeper into any of the sections of this presentation. I know I'm in camera, but to not distract you, I'm going to pull out of the camera now. I just wanted to say hi and you put a face to it. Hi, again, Eduardo here. So from the agenda, we're going to touch into who is CoreTech, how we're going to, what is Microsoft 365 Copilot, a brief description of what the technology looks like and how it works, and what does your organization need to do and how you can prepare to get ready for Microsoft 365. Then towards the end, Heather is going to ask us, help us to review some of the Q&A that has been answered or asked, sorry, through the Q&A function. So let's get started with the webinar. So who is CoreTech? CoreTech is a managed services provider that is focused on helping customers integrate solutions. We are very focused on the Microsoft Stack ecosystem, specifically around solutions like Microsoft Azure, Microsoft AVD, helping organizations to do data center migrations, to do that data center migration through automation and infrastructure as code, as well as protecting that data center and protecting that Azure environment tenant through the Microsoft Security Suite side of things with, talk about Microsoft E5 security and compliance, leveraging tools like Defender for X, right? There's a lot of defenders now, Defender for cloud, Defender for apps, Defender for endpoints. We can help with that, as well as solutions like Purview and Sentinel. Through our key differentiators, right? We're a Microsoft expert MSP. We're a Citrix Platinum partner with a Nerdio Platinum partner. So we have very deep knowledge on those areas, and we hope that we can, collaborate and then help your organization in many, many different projects. Let's get to it. So what is Microsoft 365 Copilot? That is a big, big question. So the first thing that I want to mention is that Copilot is not one thing. It's not one product. It's actually a group of products that Microsoft has decided to call Copilot. The first product that actually went GA was GitHub Copilot, right? And we know that has been used by tons of developers to write better code, to write code faster. There's also Copilot for sales, right? Specifically around, the Dynamics 365 and Viva sales to help, introduce interactive assistance to CRMs and ERPs. There is Microsoft Security Copilot to help customers to detect and respond faster to incidents, especially in a world where it's not a matter of if somebody's going to get into a security incident, is when, but how we react to it. There's Microsoft Power Platform Copilot to help organizations and help employees to build apps in a faster way using natural language with almost no code. And then what we're here today, which is to talk about Microsoft 365 Copilot, which is a whole new way to work. It is a way to work that we're very excited to be collaborating with Microsoft in enabling customers to get to it. So what is it? Right? Microsoft Copilot is an AI service that is part of the Microsoft Trust boundary that enables interaction of productivity tools across the Microsoft ecosystem. So think of accessing your data, accessing your business content and context in a secure way. because it's all part of that Microsoft Trust boundary. That way, your data stays within your tenant, your data stays within your control, while leveraging services that are provided by Microsoft. And by enabling that data to be secure and enabling those secure Microsoft services, you can have that business content and context that is so important to be more productive. And where we say more productive is because Microsoft 365 will help your employees, your collaborators, to be more creative, to be more productive, to upskill, right? How are we doing that? How can we be more creative? Well, it's going to help you to create documents that are visually stunning from scratch. It's going to help you to answer emails, to create actions, to optimize your time by creating, by leveraging Copilot to answer emails faster, to create to-do lists faster. But not only that, it can help you to up-level your skills by collaborating in creating better data analysis in tools like Excel. And in order to actually see this in action, we have prepared a few slides where we're going to walk through how does Copilot look or will look in the tools, right? Talk about Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Teams, Outlook. So let's dig into that. The first one is productivity within Word, right? We can ask Copilot to help us to write documents from scratch based on meeting notes, for example, that you took in OneNote. And then it will create that document, but that document might not be up to the standard. So you can take that input and say, hey, I have a template that I always use to create my documents. Can you apply that template? Go and browse for the template, and now ask Copilot to use that template and take images from a PowerPoint document. And now you have a proposal that came from notes and came from templates before. And we can ask also Copilot to say, hey, now that you have all this data, can you help me to create an executive summary? Can you help me to create a frequently asked questions? And at that point, you have unlocked a lot of productivity that has been created on a faster way, taking actions that might take hours or days in something that is minutes. Very, very important is that Copilot is not autopilot. If you have been in contact with Microsoft or with anybody in the Microsoft ecosystem around Copilot, they will tell you, hey, we're sitting next to you, we're co-piloting that plane. You still need to check, you still need to review. It's not an autopilot that will take you there, right? So once you have created that initial proposal template document, how can you get more creative? Same thing in Microsoft PowerPoint, you can actually tell PowerPoint, hey, I have a proposal in a Word document, but I need to present it to a customer. Can you review it and create a PowerPoint? So it will take that as an input and create that slide deck that you want. Again, that slide deck is normally okay, but sometimes we need to ask things like, hey, I need one more slide. So you can ask on a slide about a topic of the document. And all the slides, can be modified. For example, this slide is very wordy. So we can ask, Copilot to create a better, more visually appealing with automation and animations. So now you're creating a really professional looking like PowerPoint deck that your customers will receive. But not only that, it will actually even add the speaker notes to the document where you can actually present and read what the context was for that slide that was created for, by Autopilot. Again, sorry, by Copilot. We're not in autopilot mode, we're in co-creation mode, right? We're sending inputs. When we're talking about up-leveling our skills, what better than Excel, right? I can raise my hand and say that I'm okay with Excel. I'm not an expert in Excel. And how often do we get an Excel file with a dump of data that we don't know what's left, what's right, what is important, what is not important? So we can ask Copilot to, hey, can you give me the key trends of this document? And it will help us to summarize and understand that data. But I want to visually see it. So we can ask you, I can actually ask, say, hey, can you create a visualization of the data, which it does in a separate sheet. So the original data is not modified. Still a little bit of numbers out there. Hey, point me to the right key metrics that I want to look into it. So we'll automatically add color trends and you can see red things. And you can even ask, Copilot to, hey, what if I change this variable? How will things will look like? So it will help you to generate that step by step into a what if something does change, and it will tell you what it changed and how did it get to those results. And out of a table, you can say, yep, I like this table. Can you help me to create a chart that I've attached to the table? So again, by using human interactive language, we're now making sense of data, large data sets that are coming from Excel. A way to up level our skills. But what is more unproductive than actually getting to a day after a full day of meetings or a PTO and your inbox is completely full? Copilot can help us to summarize emails, can help us to define what we have missed, right? Hey, bring up the emails that are important, bring up the emails where I've been asked to take an action, and help define those actions, help summarize those emails, but also in a mobile environment, it can help us to read an email and craft an answer, right? You can go to the mobile application and say, hey, I read this email. We need to create an answer that has information from these files that is in OneDrive, and it will start crafting and writing the response for you. You can even change the tone of the response, change the content of the response, because again, it's Copilot. You should be reading. You should not be just trusting when everything is there. And once you have read that email, once we have read what Copilot co-created with you, you can then hit that send. Copilot will not automatically send it for you. So that is fantastic, right? We talk about Copilot in Excel, in Word, in PowerPoint, in Outlook. How about business chat? How about a session where you're going to get all that data together, right? On Microsoft Teams business chat, you can actually go and ask Copilot, hey, I have missed all this conversation. Can you help me to summarize what happened there? And if there is a question for you, you can ask Copilot, hey, Copilot, can you help me to define what are the next milestones, or can you help me to identify, the next milestones on these projects, and are they at risk? So you can actually answer that question for the person in the chat that we're asking for it. So there is a plethora of different human readable answers and questions and answers that are available for you. One important part of a Microsoft chat, it actually takes across all your emails, your files, your chats, your documents, your calendar, your contacts, to actually bring all this together into a single place. It is your knowledge navigator. You're now making sense of all your data, and it is created to spend less time on looking for the information and more time focused on delivering the important information. So let's talk about how all this work together from a technology perspective. One question that you might be asking is, hey, I saw you doing a lot of demos and a lot of videos around Microsoft Teams. I have Microsoft Teams. So maybe what is that difference between Microsoft Teams Copilot and Microsoft Teams Premium? And I will say more than a difference is how they work better together. How can we make Microsoft Teams Premium and Microsoft Copilot for Teams to be together? So think about Microsoft Premium to be best for automated tasks. Hey, the meeting is done. How I can recap that meeting? Or hey, I need to navigate quickly on that recording to see when Eduardo talked or when was Clint making comments. That is what Teams Premium is good for. And by the way, Teams Premium is already GA. Microsoft Copilot in Teams will be more for on-demand insights. Hey, asking when Clint was talking about X, and it will take you there. Or help me to summarize an answer to execute on these actions. Or what was the contextual information where they make the decision of go this direction? That's what Copilot for Teams will make it better. Actually, I have a good example of Microsoft Teams Premium, because as I was preparing for this webinar, we collaborated with Microsoft, and Microsoft actually, we said, hey, let's try Teams Premium. So we recorded. As you can see this, I'm a Mac user, so this is the interface from Mac. You can see that in my Mac's team, I have a recap tab. In that recap tab, I have the recording, I have the attendees of the meeting, but not only who attended the meeting, where they interacted, right? When was Robert talking, when I was talking, and also has a preset automated notes and tasks. Not only the notes are consolidated there, and these are the suggested. If you click on a note, you can actually see all the context of that note, what Eduardo said, what Robert said, and see very, very interactive. And at the end of the notes, what are the actions that were suggested? So Teams Premium is kind of an entry door into Copilot, but it's automated. I will tell you, this meeting was about an hour and a half. It took about 13 minutes for the Teams Premium engine to put all this together and be presented to us, which helped us a lot in the preparation for this webinar. As we get deeper into Copilot, how does the technology work? So it is a Microsoft comprehensive approach. As I mentioned, it's very important that it's a comprehensive approach because it takes into consideration your security, your compliance, your privacy, and adds a responsive AI engine to it. And it does that by basically leverage three main components. The first component is, LLM, or large language models, and I have to slow down because my accent makes it almost impossible to say that word fast. It takes Microsoft Graph and the Microsoft 365 applications. So let's define really quick what is a large language model. It's an advance on deep learning that actually works on human languages. It's a deep learning model that is trained to not only understand, but generate text in a human-like fashion. That's why we can use Copilot and do things like, can you create a PowerPoint presentation based on this document, right? We're asking in human language-like, and it's responding to that action. So it understands human language, it responds in human language. So when we take that notes from OneNote and we ask Copilot to generate a proposal, it writes a document in human language. And Microsoft Graph is your data. It's the gateway to your data, right? It's a fundamental part of the 365 Copilot environment. It creates a bunch of relationships between users and activities and data. And it's very, very important because it uses and leverages the semantic index engine to create all these relationships. And I'll talk about that in a minute. And then it integrates those through Graph APIs into the 365 apps, your Word, your Excel, your PowerPoint, to generate all the demos that you saw. I mentioned briefly semantic index for Copilot. Semantic index is basically a vector database that creates very complex relationships between chats, emails, and files within your business context. It's important because it's, as I mentioned, is a key component of Microsoft Graph. And without the semantic index, the responses will be a lot slower. How does this work together? And I'm going to briefly touch on that. We can spend hours on this. As a matter of fact, when I was preparing for this webinar with the Microsoft team, we spent probably an hour just on this slide. But there are things that I want to highlight here. First, the LLM. Those are a group of engines, not one engine, not two engines, but thousands of engines that are available to you, to your tenant. And every time you ask something to Copilot, Copilot defines what is the best engine to answer the question and what's the best data language model that you want to use to answer that question, and it returns that answer. It is always ephemeral stateless, which means that whatever you ask and the answer that it provides, after it's provided, it forgets about it. That's where Microsoft Graph comes into place. If you remember, I mentioned it is your data gateway, right? There's a bunch of different connectors, right? That's where Microsoft Graph is very important because not only connects into your OneDrive, it connects into your SharePoint, to your email. It also, you can enable connectors to things like, data source like Microsoft, Azure files or file servers on premises, or maybe even some ERPs that are not dynamics, right? There are connectors that are important because your data can be somewhere else. Those connectors live within Microsoft Graph. But in this example, the interaction comes your Microsoft 365 apps. So that's where everything starts. Let's say you went to Word and you say, I want to create a proposal based on the meeting notes that are in OneNote. That's when Microsoft Graphs will go to OneNote, pull that data from OneNote, take it into itself, that's your context, that's your content, send it to the large language model with the question. The LLM will create the answer and return everything back and forget about it. Now, that first document that looked pretty plain but has the format or has the content is in Microsoft Graph, that it was then sent to Word. And when you say, hey, Copilot, take this plain Word document and apply this template to make it look like in, for example, Cortex way, it will then take that first response with the new template, with the new questions, and send a new set of questions to the large language model. The large language model will generate, right? Again, we'll be picking the right one, and we'll be picking the right model for you, and it will send the answers back, and it's gone. It forgets about it. So that's where there's a lot of different language models, thousands of them. And as you can see on this graph, around all this is the Microsoft 365 trust boundary, which means that yes, OpenAI might be leveraged, but it's the Azure implementation of OpenAI is within the Microsoft side of the house. So it's actually using the data that is within your context, and is the data that is within your own tenant, not on public internet. We normally get asked, hey, is this just a chat GPT that was integrated into applications? And the answer is no. Chat GPT or GPT is one of those large language models that are there, but there is more than one. There are actually, as I mentioned, several different ones, and there are thousands of instances that respond to that. Microsoft has been working on Copilot for several years, and there is a lot more, that is coming. One of the things that is important around this is because it's interactive, because there are connectors, because based on APIs, the Copilot will continue to grow, right? It is designed to integrate new skills. It's designed to be secure by protecting the data in a comprehensive mode, by protecting the data and applying your own security, your own compliance rules, and your own privacy policy sets. It keeps grounded because it's on your data, and being grounded is important because it's contextual, right? I'm going to ask, what were the results of the meeting I have with Heather and Clint? And it will know who Heather and Clint are because it's grounded on my business content. So it's very, very, very important that way. As we move along, right, as I try to promise to keep things, within 30 minutes, how do we get ready for Microsoft 365 Copilot? And we start with the licensing. Microsoft has announced that in order to have 365 Copilot, the customer needs to have an E3, a Microsoft 365 E3 or E5 license with an active Azure Active Directory account. For customers that are identified per Microsoft as small medium business, SMB, the 365 Business Standard or Business Premium are eligible to be enabled as a 365 Copilot. As of right now, Microsoft has announced that it will have a cost of $30 per user per month. That is MSRP. I'm pretty sure that there will be a lot of incentives when it's finally GA. And one important thing that I have asked Microsoft and customers that we have had this conversation with have asked us is, hey, do I have to go all in on this? The answer is no. It's a journey, right? Let's think, hey, I'm going to start with 3 or 5 users in my organization. I want to start with HR in my organization. I want to start with the marketing team. You can start that way. You don't have to be all or nothing, right? In healthcare organizations, for example, your frontline workers might not be eligible for that. Then you might start with the nursing department or with the physician departments, right? With the billing department instead. So it's very important to highlight that it's a journey, and you can start small. and see the benefits. We do believe that once 3 or 4 organizations start leveraging and others might get, technology envy, it will sprawl, and also your business units will claim for it, will make easier to justify the expense, by the IT department. From a technology perspective, it's a very rich ecosystem, right? As you saw, there was a lot of cross-application, experience dependencies, which means that you want to have as much of that data in sources that can be indexed by the semantic index, that can be, gatewayed into by Microsoft Graph. So the tenants, the users with the richest data will have the better experience. So if you're already on OneDrive, if you're already on Microsoft Teams or SharePoint and Exchange Online, you will have a richer experience than people that might have, a lot of data on file servers or a lot of data on structured NAS devices that might have a slightly less of a good experience. A lot of these features might require OneDrive, so enabling OneDrive accounts is going to be important. Not only the user will have to have a Microsoft 365 E3, E5 license, it has to be an Azure Active Directory active account. So that person has to be enabled an active account. Initially, Microsoft has announced that is going to be based on their web versions of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. And the reason why I have an asterisk on this one is because it's my personal belief that while Microsoft is saying we're starting with a web version, but we expand to the desktop versions later, some of the delays that I think are happening is because most of us are very used to use everything through the desktop app. So I believe they're testing that application and testing that interaction and cross-application functionality on the desktop app to make it GA with the desktop app right away. And again, that's a personal belief. For Microsoft Outlook, they need to be using the new Outlook view. If you have not enabled when you open your Microsoft Outlook app on the top, you will see the toggle to go to the new Microsoft experience. That's how you have to be on that one. From a Microsoft Teams perspective, that's probably where you are the luckiest, because the current Microsoft Teams desktop tool works as is. It doesn't have to download a new one. As a matter of fact, as I was preparing for this webinar, one of the questions that I had and we were testing with is, hey, from a Microsoft Premium, we were told might be a Windows only. The part that was very interesting is because it actually taps into a lot of web services and AI that draws on the back end. The version of the Teams desktop app or the OS didn't matter. The same things that I saw on my Mac client we were able to see on the Windows client. So that's actually something good. If you are using Microsoft Loop, your tenant have to be enabled to take care of Copilot in that case. So how else can we prepare correctly for 365 Pilot? First of all, you need to understand your file permissions, right? You need to review what is your current standards in SharePoint, whether you're talking about team sites, channel sites, communication sites, or hub sites. You want to review or implement your sensitivity labels within your Microsoft Purview, right? You want to review and establish permission policies, because as I mentioned, everything is on the context of the user. So the user will only see what he's capable of seeing, but also think about the user will see everything he has access to. So let's think about a HR document that is put on a SharePoint team site that might be available or viewable by more users than the HR team. When I ask a question, if there is a name of Clint and Clint is in that file, we might be seeing data we don't supposed to be. So it's important that your data permissions are consistent and that you can only search what you have access to. If you don't have a data loss prevention tool, you should implement the tool and the policies. You can watch more information about data classification and automation in these links that can be provided at the end of the webinar in Microsoft Preview. And also stay on top of what things are happening, right? You can review utilization reports in your Microsoft 365 Admin Center. You can actually review your data governance access reports in your SharePoint Admin Center, which is very important because you can quickly see. One thing that I didn't add here, and I thought about it just now, is a fifth point that we can add here is implement Microsoft Bing for Enterprise. If you implement Microsoft Bing for Enterprise and ask Microsoft Bing for Enterprise, show me all the data that I have access to, that will give you a good idea of what Copilot will see when you ask the same question. So it is important it will be an initial step. So how can CoreTech actually help you? So first of all, we talk about licensing. We can help you through our CSP program to get you the right license for the right users. As we mentioned, it's a journey. So maybe maybe you don't have M365 E3 right now. Maybe you are all 365 E3. Let's get some of your users to E3 and then enable them with Copilot. If you don't know how to get your utilization, CoreTech can help you with services around the Microsoft 365 utilization analysis, help you to leverage more of the tools that you're already paying for. Very important. We talk about the cross-application rich functionality, the context, the semantic index, right? So we can help you to migrate your Exchange on premises to Exchange online. Your other data sources, right? Maybe you're running on a hosted email provider or on G Suite. We can help you to move that email across to Exchange Online. Move your files, whether you have home drives to OneDrive or departmental data or NAS information. We can move it to SharePoint Online to make the indexing faster. Do you want to understand your security better? CoreTech can help you with a Microsoft 365 security assessment. If you don't have data classification today, if you don't have data governance today, we can help you to implement Microsoft Purview. We can help you implement data labels, so you can actually label the confidential data, the internal data only correctly, but also in your data governance in Microsoft SharePoint or Microsoft Teams. Hey, for how long is this file available or being to stay within a team site or within a Microsoft team channel? Who has access to it? Who can share data externally? That's all part of the data governance. Now that you have all these data triggers and data coming in, how do you make sense of all the data? How do you analyze all the data and all those logs that are being produced? We can help you with implementation of Microsoft Sentinel to have a SIEM that actually makes sense for you, to be able to take action on that data. Implement Microsoft Teams Premium as a first step. We just talk about Bing for the enterprise, right? Hey, you want to understand who has access to what data is publicly available that shouldn't be? We can help you with the implementation of Bing for Enterprise. And then if you want more information about the data, right, and how can CoreTech, how can CoreTech help? We have current offers about implementation of the Azure OpenAI and Copilot offers in our website. So I encourage you to visit us at www.coretech.com to contact us via email. As I mentioned, my email is eduardo.molina@coretech.com, and we can help you with any of these services. There's a lot of more custom services that we can offer you to get ready for Copilot. With that, I want to say thank you for the time today. I went 6 minutes over. I apologize if I was too fast, but is there any questions or answers out there, Heather, Clint, that we can help answering?
Yeah, it looks like there's one question in the chat. Do you know when this will be released?
Unfortunately not. There's been all sorts of different dates, but Microsoft has not announced the official GA. Clint, have you heard anything with your connections in Microsoft? But personally, I have not heard an official GA date.
Yeah, I have not heard a GA date yet either. I know they're going to continue to expand the pilot. I think as of today in August, there's 500, give or take, companies worldwide that have a pilot of it out there. My expectation is they'll continue to expand that pilot till GA over the next few months.
Yeah, and it's interesting, right? That what Clint mentioned, these pilot users are actually paid customers that are using Copilot.
Yeah.
Right? The tool is so good that customers are willing to pay to actually be of this pilot. So we're learning more, and as more customers are enabled and authorized to join that pilot, we definitely want to help our customers to get there.
Awesome.
Awesome.
One more question in the chat is really, what's the fastest way to get ready for this?
I think I mentioned some of them, right? I think Cortec can help you, with the execution of these tools, right? Moving data to the Microsoft suite of products, OneDrive, SharePoint Online, Exchange Online, will be, one of the fastest ways, because your data is there. Once the data is there, it starts getting indexes. Microsoft Graph has access to it. So once it's enabled, once you get access to the Copilot program, your data will be there. That will be one of the fastest ways. So, shameless plug, but Cortec can get you to those intermediate steps to get there.
Awesome. That's all the questions in the chat.
Awesome. So thank you very much. Really, really appreciate the time today, and then hopefully you find this webinar with enough new information that helps you in your journey to Microsoft 365 Copilot. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Clint.